4 minutes late. I mean, and that's not so bad, like, because we're never early, except for like the last stream that we did, and we were 2 minutes early for Miss Team Crypto, and that just made it weird. But welcome to another Roundtable Live, and I'm pretty excited about this one because we're going to talk about what is a good podcast. And I heard from Zach that this is kind of second nature. It's easy. Adam picked the time, so we didn't take his opinion. And Brandon basically told us that this is like a philosophical quandary that he's been having for years. And me and Sean, well, we're just going to do our thing. And we might even get Joe here to explain to us, why being, psychologically damaged and only interviewing female artists really works.
Well, all right. Is that how we're kicking things off?
Yeah. So how are you? Maybe a quick introduction just for people who don't know you, and then we'll do something.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. When I'm looking at my screen, are we all showing up like the same on everyone's? Like Jimmy, you're top left. I'm down here.
Maybe, yeah. Like it's not Zoom. It's not because it's not Zoom. Not just random.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Whatever. Yeah.
But I mean, like if you don't like me top left, I can change that.
I think this is. Oh wow, there he goes. He disappeared.
Oh damn it! I'm still top left.
Yeah.
Thought that would work.
We can. All right. Well, I guess I just started talking, so I'll
just
go.
Just go, Adam.
But I mean, when I came in here, I heard Zach saying something about drinks, and then I'm like, dang it, I only have coffee right now. Should I have like gotten something else? So there he is, hopping in here. Nice. So, I mean, podcasting, something I've been doing for years, I guess technically since 2017, but been in front of a camera since probably 2009 or 2010 actually is when I started making YouTube videos with my buddies. I'll pull one up for you guys, like one of my classic ones that I'm probably, those cringe ones that you're embarrassed about, definitely like a decade later. I'll see if I can find one for everyone. But I'm just looking at some of the names in here, and I mean, I definitely feel like I'm hanging out with some legends. Sean, thank you for like kind of bringing me in here in the first place. Jimmy, I see all your work, and I know you're tight with the Uplift guys, and I have a ton of respect for everything going on with Uplift. Brandon, I've heard your name drop like in every episode that I've done so far. I was like, oh yeah, Brandon Lovejoy. So I was like, oh, okay, he's here. Zach, actually, I don't know if I've got to like get to know you yet, but again, you were like the most confident one in the room when I entered. So anyways, guys, I'm the host of The Shift. Happy to be here. I love doing this, and one of the main reasons that I love it with this community is I've got a huge passion just for the crypto space, blockchain space, and then I've recently just fallen in love with NFTs, but I find it hard to make time to like dive deep, and so anytime I'm here or doing my show is like when I just get a crash course and everything. I love it. So pass the sticks.
We going clockwise or counterclockwise?
Well, I'll go. Somebody's got an echo. I'm not sure who.
Probably Brandon.
Yeah. So here's my thing. Like I'm kind of a writer, and I just kind of got thrown in front of the camera one day with Corey Cottrell, and we decided to do one show a week. And then it turned into 5. I was like, well, maybe let's do 2. He's like, no, we do 1 or we do 5. And then it turned into 5. And apparently now this is what I do. I unfortunately didn't really follow any of you except for Zach before that. And Zach was one of my all-time favorites to listen to on my drive to work because, I could get like a lot of really good information that I wasn't getting in other places. But yeah, that's my story. And now we do, this roundtable. We do 5 shows a week with Corey on our channel. I do a bunch of other live streams. I mean, apparently I'm a 45-year-old, gamer who just makes money by getting people to tell me what they're grateful for, which is pretty cool. Apparently, like I get like a few Finny coins for just like inviting people on to like talk about themselves, which is pretty cool. What makes a good podcast? I don't know, but I'm kind of enjoying doing it. So yeah, I think we need to save Brandon for last because this might be like a really long philosophical quandary. So let's go with let's go with Zach. Who are you, Zach, and what do you do?
I'm Zach. So this is actually my first podcast in like 2 or 3 months. I've been on like a content hiatus. I've just been super busy. that's why I kind of jumped at this opportunity. It was a topic that I probably could add some insight to without doing a bunch of research. But before this,
I mean, you already blew up the Telegram. Like, one question came into the Telegram and it already blew up for like an hour. It was great.
Yeah. So my podcast I did was, and still is, I just need to get the enthusiasm and inspiration to get back into the rhythm like you are, man. 5 days a week's insane. I thought it was a lot when I was doing like 2 a week. But I started a podcast called Everything EOS Podcast back in 2018. I think we're up to our 160th episode if I do another one here soon. But yeah, I didn't really plan to get into it either. It was just something that was kind of thrown on me. During like the 2017 bull run, I was working at a crypto company called ICO Alert. We like had a 13-person team. We worked like marketing with a bunch of ICOs, and we had a YouTube channel that was and a podcasting like iTunes thing that was similar to what you guys are doing on Writer right now, where it was like, first it was just a podcast that interviewed ICOs, and it was like our CEO Rob Finch doing the interviews, and then like as we started hiring more staff and different personalities came in with different areas of expertise. Like, we had all the equipment, we had all the audio equipment. We didn't have video equipment at the time, it was audio only, but everyone just started like coming up with their own show ideas. And we actually had a channel just like Cryptowriter is doing now, where you have all of these different like experts in their particular fields, and they all got to talk about what they're passionate about. And we were able to like kind of create like a weekly like content schedule. Like every Monday is this, every Tuesday is this, and every Thursday was Everything EOS. So that's how I got started in podcasting. Was I just got asked to do it. We had the equipment. I didn't really want to do it. But I always have a lot to say, as you said in the Telegram channel. I always have a lot to say, but I don't have the patience to sit down and like blog necessarily. So it turned out that just turning a microphone on and bullshitting with a bunch of friends or a friend turned out to be a pretty good medium for me to share a lot of knowledge and expertise that otherwise would have just been stuck in my head. But eventually, the last bull market died down. The company I was working for kind of shut down. And then we spun up Everything EOS into like its own thing. And then we ran with that. I had full sponsorship for a year for 2019. Then just been doing it kind of on my own ever since then. It's just kind of like my little baby that I keep up on. But as far as what makes a good podcast, people talking about what they're passionate about, without limitations on time. So usually podcasts are long format. I know like sometimes they're 10, 15-minute ones. Like my wife likes those ones, but I tend to like the long format. Like an hour is a good length because it's consumable, but I'm also a pretty big fan of like the Joe Rogan style, where like it's like a 3-hour like it depends on who the guest is and like what the topic is. Like, but like Joe Rogan, the people he's interviewing has a ton to say. Whereas like in crypto, you have a lot less to say. It's a more narrow topic, so an hour is good. But I think the format is like you have to have a host or co-hosts that are just like really passionate about their subject and also really knowledgeable about their subjects, and also take the job very seriously. And that's something that I always took a lot of pride in, was like probably spent way too much time like digging into the research and planning everything out. Like I would like, even if I was doing an interview with someone, they had no idea like what I was going to come out with. I like had a whole playbook in front of me of just like over preparation. And I think it showed in like the quality of the content. And from going through that experience of doing it myself, it was like a huge learning curve, but I got really into it. Now it like kind of added this new layer that whenever I listen to other people's content or watch other people's content, like you guys, I could like identify with certain things that I know like took a lot of time that or research or effort that like might come off as easy to the audience, but you know that I almost swear that person put like so much time and effort into like their work. And yeah, so that's what I think a good podcast is just a good host, passionate, knowledgeable, well-researched, and shines the spotlight on their guests. I mean, it depends on the format, but an interview format, your job as the host is just to be background noise for the guest and to just really shine the spotlight on them, elevate them. And I think in crypto, that's kind of like the biggest benefit that you can give to your guests is kind of it. I would only ever bring guests on that I thought were great people. So if I thought they were great people, I felt like I was a filter to share them with everyone else, shine the spotlight on them. and then kind of, I don't know, kind of opens up doors sometimes. Sometimes if you have a guest on here, like with you guys, someone that nobody in the community knows, you bring them on for the first time, then all of a sudden it makes their job easier in their day-to-day. Like if they're doing biz dev or just reaching out to people, it's like, hey, I know you. Because when you do podcasts long enough, like Jimmy, I didn't really know you that well until you started doing these podcasts. And you're able to kind of create this relationship with your audience where your audience feels like they know you really well, even if you don't know them, because they're all just anonymous names on the internet that you sometimes see in the live chat. But like they feel like they know you. And one of the things I miss with Corona is the in-person like events, like the conferences and stuff where you actually get to meet these people. And it's always like a fun experience because it's kind of like they feel like they know you. And it's just like a really, you kind of feel like a celebrity in a way, even though you're like a celebrity to like a couple hundred people, but it's still a really cool experience. All right, I'll shut up now. I talk too much.
No, I like it. Like on the time thing, like I get it. Like Sean and I have trouble filling 45 minutes. That it's just difficult. I
don't know if there's ever been like.
And Joe's like, screw this, I'm done. But like, it's interesting because like I think like you and Adam as well. And Brandon as well. Like you guys all like probably put a lot of prep into your podcast. Like Sean and I, like when we do this show, we don't, and maybe this is why we don't usually have guests. We just get on there and we just like take care of each other instead of the guest, and it seems to be working. So I'm quite happy about that. Sean, I know the story, but I want to know if like my rendition of the story is right. How did you get into crypto podcasting?
So when Cryptowriter was, making our big Finny push, someone had to get out there and promote it. And Kenny, put up the stop sign. It wasn't going to be him. So I was sort of thrust in the spotlight. Actually, Jimmy and Corey, I think your Media Mogul show was the first show I was on. And I went back and watched it and I was like, man, kind of sucked, but it was well received. And I went on a couple other shows, and even though I thought I sucked, it's still pretty well received. And then Jimmy, we'd have little 5-minute conversations that turn into hours. And I got to know you better, and we had a fun time talking to each other. And I remember one day you were like, why don't we just push this live? And I was a little hesitant to the idea at first, but then we got it rolling, right? And you popped my cherry, and I think it's getting better by the week. And I'm looking forward to tonight's Edge of Obscurity from my shed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That sounds exactly like my experience. So Jimmy and Corey like pulled you in because they were already doing it. That's what Rob did to me. Rob was already doing a podcast. And what happened was like we sat next to each other in the office. And at the time, like EOS ICO was going and things were like on fire for it at the time. And it's just like all we talked about all day. We literally, all we did to start the podcast was we turned the microphone on. Because whenever you have like two people or a group of people like we have here, and you're talking about something you're passionate about, like there's value in that conversation. You don't realize it like when you're having the conversation because like you're just like talking to friends. But what you don't understand is like not everyone in the world is on your like level of expertise on whatever it is like you're talking about that you're passionate about. So by flipping on that microphone, like you said, like you listened to it and you probably thought you sounded like crap, but there was probably other people that were tuning in that actually gained some value from it. And creating value is like something like I think as a podcast host, like that's your number one goal of every episode is how could I create value for my audience? And if you keep doing that, then you're kind of gonna grow a community around it over time.
Yeah, you gotta, especially in this space. I like to say on the shifts, like you gotta talk nerdy to me. Let's not just like you could ask questions like, oh, how did you get started? And everyone knows there's like these blanket questions in any conversation, like how's the weather? But once you get started like talking about like I didn't realize that you were there at the kind of like the inception of EOS, Zach. So it's like I don't know. I mean,
I'm a little bit annoyed because he hasn't said it. Everything EOS, the longest running EOS podcast. That's the tagline. And like,
Really?
It is, but it's hard for me to say that because I got to do a new show at some point. I should just do a show like this format. So a big reason is I don't like to half-ass things. I only want to do content if I feel like I'm at my best and well-researched. And I one that within EOS right now, it's kind of like there's not a whole lot to talk about all the time. So it's kind of like part of that. And I niched myself in with like the name of my damn channel. That's the biggest mistake, people. Never niche yourself in with the name of your channel. Right, because it's like I've always told it should be everything crypto, but it's like, nah, I just never pulled the trigger on it. And I just feel like kind of pigeonholed into a single topic because I could talk about a lot of other stuff, but it's kind of like, I don't know. I just, the whole rebranding thing, it just seems like a whole lot of work and I don't have a lot of time right now. That's why I haven't done content. But yes, it is the longest running ES podcast. I have 143 episodes in my archive.
And you said they're all like hour long episodes too?
Yeah. And for the longest time, they were all like pre-recorded and I edited them myself. Like I learned how to use all the software myself, got really tedious with the editing. I would literally spend hours preparing for each episode and then like half to an entire day like editing every episode to make them like really good because I was always so nervous about like sounding bad and like I'm live here, so you're gonna hear all of my ums and uhs and my filler words that I use, and I'm like such a perfectionist that whenever I do like the edited podcast, you won't even catch that because I literally will take the time to edit out all of the fillers. If we ever get diverted off a topic, I'll cut that part out because like I like to edit everything in a way that every single thing that is said kind of continues like the narrative that I'm trying to create in the conversation and kind of only value added stuff. Like sometimes you'll get a guest that just goes on a tangent about something like completely off topic. And you're like, all right, get on with it. I would edit all that shit out so that the audience didn't have to deal with that like I did because I value the audience's time. Like I said, I think an hour is a good length. But usually whenever I would record stuff, I'd get like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half of content because like I'd be talking to people that were just vibing. And I just cut out all the fluff and try to keep it to an hour. But
I've actually been on Zach's show 5 times, but like they never aired because he just had to cut the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I mean, Jimmy, Zach, going live is definitely another level of podcasting that I haven't really tapped into until like within the past 6 months, really. And this has been one place that I've just loved it because some places I've gone live and like maybe 1 or 2 people will pop in, but because the Cryptowriter community is so active, like, I mean, you can just hop on and not have a plan and just start talking to whoever's there and go from there. Like,
Can we just pin that for a minute? Because like, let's talk about that after we get through the introductions. Because I like the idea of what Zach said and the going live. And I think there's 2 ways, and I really do want to talk about it. But NFT Joe.
What's he smirking at?
Right? Like you never know. Maybe he's smiling at like the birds in the park, or he maybe, you know. What's happening, Joe?
Maybe a stroke.
Yeah, I'm watching my daughter at the park.
Okay, that's better. Better than the birds.
Yeah. Sean put a microphone in front of my face. That's how I got a podcast.
It sounds like everyone got into it the same way. Someone just threw them to the fire and was like, here you go.
Yeah. There was no thought to it. There was no
wow.
You sound like a robot.
Right. You might need a new microphone. Sean,
maybe
get on
kill your video because your video is kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if we get into the differences between recorded and live, this is like one of the nuances of it is whenever you have like a co-host, like how Rob and I had our thing, like doing live, we eventually went to a live format because it was just cut down on our overhead time of editing and stuff. But like we both had our setups. We knew like there was never technical issues. But whenever you have guests on, like let's say it's a one-on-one interview, and then your guest starts having like technical issues on the live stream, like you always run the risk of that stuff. And when that happens to me as the host, man, I just start mumbling and bumbling and getting all nervous because I think the audience is going to hate it, but they probably don't even really care as long as
right. Or your guests don't show up like last week, and you have a round table of one. I mean, that was fun.
Well, we can. I think Joey could probably go now, though. It sounds like it did get better once he turned the camera off.
Yeah, it's probably the buffering of the video.
Yeah, but you're good now.
I am Murphy's Law, and I'm pretty technologically like advanced than most people. Like everything that can go wrong will go wrong for me, and all you guys do, like I'll never do fucking hate.
This is like the best part about this is like if you're reading between the lines, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and like as Zach pointed out, we are live and we can barely hear you again. But yeah, I like it. Fair enough. So I'll fill in here, or maybe Sean can help me. But I really like NFT Joe's podcast because Joe does something that's a little bit off base, right? Like he's very niche in the fact that he interviews artists. He's got his own like Telegram channel. He's doing amazing things. And like if you're like into art and you're into wax especially, but any blockchain art and you're not following Joe, you definitely should. And I'm pretty sure that like when he does his show, he doesn't cut out like this, right?
Yeah. So with Joe, the story was I rescued him from Reddit obscurity. We needed content creators, so I reached out in the NFT subreddit, and Joe responded. And just from our chatting, like on Telegram, I could tell he could talk. So I had a call with him, and you could just tell he liked talking. And I said, Joe, what do you think about doing a podcast? And he's like, I don't know. And I asked him for his address, and I sent him a Blue Yeti. I Amazoned it, and it was there the next day, and it just forced him to like figure it out. And the first podcast I listened to, he's always interviewing artists in the NFT space. And the first podcast I listened to, I realized that the person he was interviewing was acting as his like therapist. So through these interviews, Joe is like, even though Joe's diving behind the pixel with these artists, they're like solving his problems. I don't know if that makes sense. And I'm like, this is great because it's a very kind of romantic experience to listen to one of his podcasts. It's just Joe and the person, he's exploring them and they're exploring, him, and he comes out of these better. And also I'd like to say with Jimmy, even over the course of, the last few months, I think Jimmy's improved tremendously. I think just the more you do, the better you get. It makes sense, right? You get the practice. And same with Joe. Over the last 8 podcasts he's done, he's just like, they get better and better.
You actually watch every episode on the channel?
No, I don't, but I might not listen to the whole podcast, but I'll try to tune in and just whenever Jimmy's on, I'll tune in. I'll make a few snarky remarks in the comment section, and then I'll dip out unless I have time. But I've become more accustomed to just having something play in the background, even if it doesn't have my attention, because I like to be there. And I know for people podcasting to get the back and forth, to get the comments, it feels good.
You mentioned the Blue Yeti. So what makes a good podcast is,
not the Blue Yeti, because like whenever I turn
sounding professional, so like having the good mics and stuff. So that's the other thing you can't ever rely on with your guests is sometimes like they just have like the worst audio ever, or like they don't have headphones. I couldn't get my headphones to work today, so I'm guilty of it too. But I closed everything that would be making like notification noises and stuff. But just like limiting that stuff. But the microphone's key. Are you what mics are you guys using? Hold them up for the camera if you can. So
Yeah,
I got the Blue Yeti also.
Blue Yeti.
I got the Blue Yeti, but like here's my thing, right? Like it was good, but I live in Japan and I live like in the middle of a city, you know, like on the 11th, 12th floor with kind of a park like across the road, like I can see the whole city of Osaka, but like running right essentially beside
me. Like a view of that if we can. That sounds dope.
I'll show you at some point in the cast. But yeah, but running right beside me is this like highway that runs through the city. And like you can hear every single thing, and then they have like these motorcycle guys. Like, right. So
yeah, there's the Blue Yeti's omnidirectional, which means it like picks up audio from like a lot of different directions. It has like different settings, so you could try to aim it, but it picks up all the background noise. So if you have like vents or like fans going off, it's a terrible mic. But whenever I first started, I had like when I was at ICO Alert, man, we had like top-notch equipment. We were doing like $500,000 a month in revenue. So like everything was just like the best. And we had like this $500 or $600 microphone. They're like the Shure microphones. Like they're like the top of the lines, like the ones they use on Rogan. And I actually like when they shut down ICO Alert, they just gave me all the audio equipment. And like I used it for a while. And I ended up selling that microphone and buying the Blue Yeti just because with like the really high end equipment, you got to run it through like a mixing board and stuff. It's just like a big pain in the ass. And one time, like for the San Fran hackathon, for EOS hackathon in 2018, I brought all of my equipment on a plane with me and I brought it to the San Francisco hackathon. I set up my podcasting station, cameras and everything. It was a nightmare. I broke half the equipment on the way home. I dragged that shit to Germany too. I brought it to Germany and did a live, not a live podcast, but like an on-site podcast there. Any of you guys have experience with that, like doing podcasting at like an event on location?
Not as much as I'd like to. That's something I'd love to have, like a, you know, some kind of like Rogan studio style setup or just on location podcasting, maybe only a couple times. But I guess we have a place to kind of do that in the Uplift world, right? We got an office in there somewhere.
I've done an interview in the metaverse. I was interviewed on Crypto Voxels, and it was a trippy experience because you're looking out on your screen, you're looking out at this audience of like white ambiguous avatar figures, and they're like jumping around and stuff. But I was obviously doing it from my bedroom.
Hey, did we get to sorry? Did we get to Brandon yet? Because we
Brandon's been so patient. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
We're still going.
I know, like it's.
Are we going into the metaverse?
Before we I don't know what you're doing. I know you're working with Liquid Apps. I know you're doing a bunch of stuff, but like, yeah, seriously, like I don't know how you stream that, but I would love to see that 3D helmet thing that you have there, walking around Fin City, which is what we kind of dubbed it, because that would be really cool. I heard from another group that's in the Uplift the other day that they did that. I think it was like the NFT army or something. They went in and like they stood on the street and they looked up and they were just like, this is crazy, right? Like I haven't done it. But
I always wanted to do a podcast in VR. Rob and I, when High Fidelity was still around and active and stuff, we were going to do a podcast with their team in VR. And it was like super complicated of like how you like record it, because you like need someone else that's in VR to basically be looking at you, and they're basically the camera. So they're live streaming like that. What they're seeing in VR is like your camera, and you have to have like it was just like a big headache. But I think like 2 years have passed since then. I think there's probably better tooling now. But that's still something I would one day like to do, is a podcast in VR. And I know there's a Bitcoin podcast that's in VR. My buddy was telling me about it, but I haven't ever joined it. And I'm guessing none of you guys have done any of that, listening or recording one in VR.
The closest I ever got was like watching Brendan Lovejoy walk through his Escher house. That's the closest I've ever seen.
That was an optical illusion.
I mean, you went out the back door and down 5 flights of stairs and then up 3 flights. No, I don't think anyone has ever done VR. Like what would be really cool is if we did the first VR podcast ever. Like, but I'm pretty sure my computer would blow up.
What would an AR podcast be like? I'm having a hard time imagining if there's a way to do that.
Well,
like, can you do augmented reality podcast?
I'm sure, and we could drop Finny coins, and people will be jumping across their room to grab them.
Yeah, that'd be entertaining to watch people stumbling around the room trying to grab virtual objects.
So the thing I was talking about, it's called Reckless VR. They do Bitcoin meetups. So they're not really podcasts, but they do Bitcoin meetups in VR. I've never done one. I've never joined one though, so I have no insight on like how you'd even like host one if you wanted to. But
Bitcoin meetups.
It'd be cool though to do like any kind of meetup in VR. It'd just be something different, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess I'm wondering.
I got this Quest 2. Like Liquid Apps bought us like whenever Corona hit. Like I've always been remote. I'm in the US, but like the Liquid Apps team, the core team's in Tel Aviv, Israel. So like there's like a core group that's there and they all like would work together in their office, but I've always been remote. So it was no different when Corona hit. When Corona hit, like they all went remote also. And then when the Quest 2 came out, which is that headset there, like they bought us all Quest 2 so that we could have like meetings and whiteboarding sessions and stuff in VR. And it didn't last very long. It was just like a lot of overhead and a lot of like effort to do what you could do on a Zoom call. So now I just have this headset and I'm always just looking for something to do with it because I really don't use it for anything. That's why I'm like looking for a reason to use it and try to figure out something. That's why I would love to do a meetup just so I could, I don't know.
Is that the Oculus?
That battery doesn't.
It's a Oculus Quest 2.
Okay. Podcast, like you just pretend that you're in VR, that like the battery's dead, and it's just like, yeah, I'm in VR. I can see all of you. I'm reaching into your living room.
Yeah,
it's a nice dress there, Miss Anderson.
I have a question. What's your most memorable podcast or podcast moment? We'll start with you, Jimmy. Are we? Like, Brandon needs. We gonna let Brandon speak?
I mean, we kind of should. I don't know. Like that might like
maybe just my presence. Maybe just my presence alone will.
It has a
like. Maybe I should just sit here. I put sunglasses on and just not say anything and stare.
It does have it does have a calming effect on all
sort of a Morpheus
having you in the room.
Well, I mean, yeah. Why don't we just let you start and do the introduction and then answer the question? Who are you? Where do you come from? And then what's your most memorable podcast ever? And if it's not making tea on Obscurity and Beyond, there's a little remove button below that I'm going to press.
That's fair. Well, yeah, Brandon Lovejoy. I do the Blocks Populi podcast for Cryptowriter, and really, Sean just kind of instigated that. I mean, I've always been more of a writer. I mean, I went to school for radio and television broadcasting back in the day, but I quickly realized I was going to end up reading farm reports in some like Iowa, studio somewhere, and I didn't want to do that. So really my podcast experience is pretty minimal. I mean, I helped start a pirate radio station back in Philly back in the day. And did a lot of stuff like that, like not so much. Yeah, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so it's been kind of entertaining to get thrust into this brave new world of podcasting. And I'm not sure that I have really good advice for what makes a good podcast, other than I feel like people really pick up on a sense of wonder. And, I think that's what Joe Rogan does so well, is he's genuinely present and curious and earnest. He's really earnest and engaged, and he is really interested in his guests and what they have to say. And I think just being present and engaging is, 9/10 of the issue with making a good podcast. And then all the other technical stuff aside, But yeah, I'm not ready to get too philosophical yet. So, get me warmed up. One thing I do like about podcasts, or just I enjoy the back and forth. I enjoy riffing with people, and I think a lot of the best content just comes up when we're throwing random bits of stimuli at each other. If I had to sit here and just monologue by myself, I don't think it would be too engaging. But when there's other people in the room, it's a nice,
right? Like I do that by myself. I monologue by myself, and the missus the missus wakes up and she's like, you were on a stream really late last night, or you were talking to yourself again? And like, she's never sure.
Here's a question: like, what is a podcast? Because like I always wondered that, because like this, like you can call it a live stream, or you can call it a podcast. Like, what's the difference between like content types? Like, what is the actual definition of a podcast? Actually,
you're not a podcast till you're on the Apple
call it a podcast
app. I don't know.
I guess you could say it's like a.
Like, because I don't consider, like, okay, so you watch Ivan on Tech. Ivan on Tech, he doesn't call himself a podcast. He doesn't, I don't know. Like, it's the same format as this in a way, but it's one person, I guess. Like, what's the difference between doing like live streaming and doing a podcast? Or is it the same? And it's just a matter of what
there's any meaningful difference.
Yeah.
I mean, look, my dad calls all smartphones iPhones.
Yeah.
Like, so people call all shows on the internet podcasts, and what difference?
I see it as just like the long format. I think for me is I know there's short format podcasts, but I see podcasts as like a long format conversational format. But
yeah, that's really interesting. So like you would see like podcasts as the epitome of being live that isn't like on a normal broadcast network then.
But sometimes like the edited, like highly edited podcasts are way better than the live ones. Like, like one, because you can like not have a bunch of like silence in between some of the conversation. Like you could make it a lot more professional, but there's also like, for like storytelling components, like I like, so I guess one question is like, what podcast do you like? And one of the ones I like is Freakonomics Radio, which is like, if you ever read the book Freakonomics, I'm not going to get into that, but like he does like, he'll like edit in like audio clips and stuff, and like musical like interludes between like scenes. And it's like a format of storytelling, but through audio. And that's like different than just like conversational, like roundtable discussions like this. So like, what format do you guys like to consume yourselves in, and like what components of it, like what's the reason behind it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I do want to go back to Sean's after this, but I think that's a really good question. So for me, I'm not much of a, for some reason it's weird because I don't actually listen to voice only podcasts. I only listen to videos, but I only listen to videos when they're playing on YouTube in my car and I'm driving. So like I may as well just listen to the voice onlys, right? But like I like things that like teach me something, right? Like some of my favorite podcasts of all time, actually, Zach, yours was one of them. Like I used to listen to that a lot when you were on a regular basis. I really liked like what was it, EOS Radio? Those guys were really good. I really like those roundtables that they used to do. I think Cheney Moore used to be on those. I think some of you have been on those as well. It's bizarre, but like for some reason, like I really like Anders. I appreciate what he does. I don't always have time to watch it. Any observation, and I really liked. I really like. Sometimes I like cheesy podcasts, right? Like I like Naomi Brockwell. Like she's really like out there. She's really like, in your face about like, regulation and stuff like that, but she does a really good job and she carries the role really well. And I used to like Elio Trades a lot. Although like recently it's a little bit different than it used to be. I guess maybe I like those like rough and raw kind of like podcasts for the most part, but if they're professionally done, like I think that, they're well worth watching. So I'm not really sure if that answers the question, but yeah. That's my take.
The YouTube part is interesting because I definitely have done that before too. You just get the video up and then you let it play in the background while you're not watching it. I've found Spotify to be convenient too, just because I like to listen to music a lot, and so they've done a great job of making both very accessible I understand that most people probably do use the iTunes or Apple Podcast platform, but yeah, I got to go. Spotify and YouTube are probably best for consuming.
How garbage is it that on an iPhone, YouTube doesn't let you minimize the video and it stops the audio? They want to charge you $20 a month just so that you can minimize the damn video and like
they'll
text
let you
while you're listening to something.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
It is BS. I did fall for the trap though. I
have two in auto
after the 500 ads. You know, they're like, do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want to click here? No for like 3 years, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Well, Spotify on desktop, like if I put Rogan on and I want to minimize and just have the video window, it doesn't let you do it. And that drives me insane because I can't just put the video up in the corner of the screen. You got to have the whole thing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're force feeding you the Rogan.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool how, I mean, man, that guy is such a gold standard. I think we've all referenced his show as like something that we consider like ideal for podcasting. The cool thing about his show too, though, is like everyone's going crazy when he signed that big deal with Spotify. And I think that's actually just an early sign of what the podcasting space can be for everyone in it, and like including us. Like just because he has signed this massive deal doesn't mean there's not going to be, you know, hundreds of more people going to find themselves in the same position soon. There's just like this podcast tsunami that's still.
Well, I mean, but that brings up another interesting question. Is there any need with blockchain and crypto these days to actually, you know, sign a deal? Because there isn't. If you look at someone like any observation in Anders, what he's doing with his NFTs and his slices, he's essentially using that as a Patreon, right? And then he's getting sponsored and he's dropping NFTs to other people. If you look at what Cryptowriter's doing with like their Finny,
you're
like
hitting
that,
on,
right?
That's so powerful that you say that, because that's actually, I hope it stays that way, because this space is always ahead of the game in making sure that you get what's yours. So you don't need like Spotify to sign you a massive deal. You can write your own deal in blockchain and crypto. So I just had to say that.
No, but right. And that's what like we're finding out with Yoshi drops now as well, right? Like we've got like these record labels and these artists and these musicians that are coming into the fold, and they're looking at it. And like these are like record companies that have been legitimately scared about you know, some of these like Napster and things like this, like ever since the Napster days, like this music, like free music industry, live streaming type of stuff. But now they're looking at NFTs and they're like, holy shit, like everyone can capitalize on this. Like everyone can win, right? Like everyone can come in here and be their own broadcast network. They can come in here and be their own musician, right? Like, I mean, like, yeah, you thought American Idol was cool? No, fucking buy NFTs. That's what I'm gonna say, right? Like artists get paid. Like,
that's so far. I gotta write that down.
When it gets to the point where Spotify is legitimately worried about losing viewers to people like Anders and that are offering these other kind of forms of engagement and value, then they'll do the same thing. Until then, they don't have any, you know, they're doing just fine with the current model they have, and they'll just pull people over when they become a threat, like Rogan essentially. You know, like why have Rogan pulling people off of their platform, you know, and just consuming his content when, you know, he could be on there. And to answer your previous question, I really like highly produced. I'm a super audiophile, so I totally love it when people bring in all sorts of cool samples and like layer in all these different like sound clips from all sorts of different things and create this whole world. I mean, again, I went to radio broadcasting school, so I totally love and appreciate that. But on the other hand, I really love just two people talking about whatever, you know, whether it's Glenn Greenwald being interviewed or, you know, like I like a lot of edgy political commentary from these people that aren't afraid to say what's on their mind. So I kind of go in for it all. Like, and then, you know, like it doesn't need to be highly produced. Like what we're doing now is super interesting and valuable in its own right. You know, it's not going to be one of these highly produced shows, but it has its own niche. I think there's room for it all.
I feel like this is something that happens in podcasts too. The whole experience as a host or a guest comes in waves. There's some points where you're sitting back there and you are kind of thinking like, oh shit, what should we talk about next? And then there's sometimes where it's like, man, this is just fire. Everyone wants to talk and everything's firing off, and you just like, oh, I gotta say this, I gotta say that. Like, yeah, I don't know. Just anyway, I feel like we're about to hit that moment right now.
What are you guys like preparation? Like, what's your routine like? Because I didn't know what to expect here. We just literally hopped on and went live, and that's not usually how I would do mine. So like, I want to hear like what you guys' process is. Like, if you have a guest, for example, you
let me go, Jimmy. Let me go.
Okay.
So
is there a way we can like raise our hand?
I've never been the host, right? But as someone who's been interviewed, I think that warm up period, 10, 15 minutes before is incredibly helpful. Also, people like Adam, this isn't really preparation, but I noticed when I was on a podcaster like Adam's show, he was awesome at leading the conversation and moving it along. So there's no real hesitation. So that's super helpful because I've been thrown on podcasts where I really don't know the host. We haven't had prior conversation, and then they don't move the conversation along, which puts pressure on you to move the conversation along. And if you don't have practice doing it, it's difficult. So yeah.
That the routine thing is like, man, this is anyone who's thinking about doing your own show. This is such a diverse answer or way to do it, because your routine can completely change as you become better. I think at the beginning it is helpful to have like a few backup questions and this and that if you're nervous, if you never pressed record before. But I say thankfully it was probably after about 100 episodes I realized like. Actually, I interviewed my buddy. I know we got a lot of Australians here. My buddy Reed Goosens, who's in the commercial real estate space, and he was like, when I do my show, it's just like you're having a beer with your mate, or coffee or a beer with your mate. I'm like, wow, I don't know why I never just thought of it that way. I'm like, I need to treat it more like I'm having a coffee or beer with my mate, and so just became much more conversational. And you have to pay close attention. And one thing that helps a lot is taking notes. That actually sometimes I don't even prepare, but I'll just take notes along the way and gather info. And then it seems like you have come prepared. So take notes, have a beer with your mate. Those are two like hacks once you kind of get comfortable pressing record. And Zach, you're nodding like, and Jimmy, I'm sure you guys can relate here on this one.
One thing I like to do if it's like an interview where it's like one-on-one with a guest and I'm not real familiar with them is I always listen to one of their most recent podcasts with someone else. And I listen to that conversation and if I'm interested enough, I'll listen to two of them, but usually I'll limit it to just like the one most recent one and try to pick up on it. And sometimes I'll even repeat if think something's interesting, my audience probably didn't listen to this other podcast, so I could just repeat stuff. And that helps with the preparation work too, because then you kind of have an idea of what their answer is going to be because you already heard their answer. And then you could plan the next question, where you want to take it next. Like I would always kind of prepare a narrative of like get to point A to point B to point C to kind of like tell a story. And even if the guest doesn't know, I'm like guiding them and leading them into stuff. Like I try to do it like that. But that's I think super useful for anyone wanting to do a podcast. Like if you want to sound prepared, just listen to their most recent one. That's like the best advice I can give you.
And if you can't sit through their most recent one, maybe reconsider having them on the show. That's like, how about, but like in order to answer that question, I'll go back to Sean's question, which was like, what are your two most like memorable podcasts of all time? And I think this is maybe a weird segue that only resonates in my mind, but that's kind of what I do. So like number one, the best podcast for me of all time was probably like the induction to Sean and the podcasting space or the live space on our channel, because like he just roasted Bonds and Bonds was in the comments and like it was so much fun and we loved it. Everyone loved it. Sean loved it. Bonds loved it. The community loved it. Everyone was like really cool and it was great. It was one of our best live casts ever. The second most memorable podcast that I ever had was actually the day that I got to interview Yves LaRose. And I had seen Yves LaRose multiple times on Zach's channel because he used to come on for like really important stuff and kind of, is that Yves LaRose there? Like, did he just, he heard his name and just appeared randomly in the corner? But like I remember thinking like, okay, like he's been on with you and he's been on with M Blue, and M Blue is one of these types of people who like, manicures his podcast as well. And I'm like, how are we going to hold up? Like we're going completely live, right? So like those are my two kind of interviews. So yeah, sorry, Zach just like disappearing because he had to give Eve LaRose a bro hug, because I think Eve LaRose might.
You're hitting on a good point here, though. There's definitely some moments in podcasting.
Like,
no, there's some moments that will happen that you're right. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like, this is happening right now. I think for me with Cryptowriter, like the shift, that was the first time. I'll go back to the one that I did with Sean. If you guys watched the first episode of the shift, it's the first time that I think I've actively had, more than, I don't know, what do we have, like 10, 15, 20 people in there, like watching live, commenting. Like I've had people on live streams before, but it's, intermittent. And so to have like a fully engaged audience, that was a pretty iconic moment. It's like, man, I've been doing this since there he is, 2017. Here it's time now. And then I've got a couple other moments that come into mind, but we got Zach here. Zach, what's up?
Yeah. I forgot my father-in-law was coming to pick up my leaf blower. Like I'm like, I have a basement door to like the outside, and no one ever knocks on it, so it scared the shit out of me. Who's knocking on this door? And I was like, oh wait a minute, he was supposed to come over this morning to get some.
See, this might be the highlight today, and you would have cut that out normally, like
that actually reminds me of like, I think, did you guys say like your best experience?
Just your memorable.
One of my worst ones or memorable was this exact same situation on a live stream where I was in a conversation. I think Rob was, it was just me and Rob. But like, it was like, we're in the middle of a conversation and he like had to pick up a package or something, like a package got delivered and he had to sign for it. So like in the middle of a podcast, like he just got up and ran away. And I just like was like deer in headlights. And like, I was just like, literally like my heart was beating because I just didn't know where to take it. And it probably wasn't even that big of a deal, but I don't know. That's what happens with live, man. Like it's kind of anything could happen.
I'll never forget it was a podcast you and Cheney did, Zach, with Dan, and there was all this hype. We hyped it up, and you guys go on, and the first question out of Cheney's mouth is he asked Dan about his cat that just died like a few days before. And it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And it was Cheney trying to be nice, but it was just, and it's not easy with Dan sometimes.
Open ever.
Yeah.
So that podcast was super memorable because, like I said, as far as like the preparation, I like to over prep. So every time Cheney and I do a podcast together, we always hop on the call like 30 minutes ahead of time and just go over what we want to talk about before we record or go live. And for this one, since it was Dan, we hopped on the call an hour early. And we were on there for like 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden Dan pops in. Like we're trying to like prep of like how we're gonna question Dan and like tailor the whole podcast, and Dan shows up, and then he ended up just like hanging out with us for like almost an entire hour before the podcast, and then we ended up recording the podcast, and like it went like 3 hours. Like it was just that was probably definitely one of the more memorable ones for sure.
I actually remember that,
including his dead cat.
So Dan, the first question we're going to ask you is,
somebody's got an echo.
Yeah. But did Cheney tell him that in the preparation? We're going to ask you about your dead cat as soon as we go
but
live.
we did talk about the dead cat. So like it was already like we already talked about it. So I don't know why you had to repeat it on the air. That's one of the hard parts though with doing the prep with your guests. So like if you have like an interview and you start to call like 15 minutes before you go live, or if you're recording it, you just bullshit before you start the recording. You sometimes forget, like if we talked about something in preparation and then you actually hit record and you go live, you sometimes you make canonical reference to something that you talked about that wasn't on the air. And it's just like, you don't really notice it until like you already did it. and then sometimes you'll like not ask questions because in your mind you remember talking to them about it already, but you're talking to them about it in like preparation. Then by the time you're on the actual live stream, you don't bring it up because you already talked to them once about it, but it's just in your head. You're just trying to go with the flow.
So, Brendan, do you have another podcast that might be almost as memorable as when you poured tea over a dragon a couple weeks ago?
I gotta watch this.
Like
You guys keep
sounds like a drug reference.
What's the episode called so I could search for it? I want to pull it up.
Oh, it's just
They're all called To Obscurity and Beyond in 45 minutes or less. And the first 45 minutes was like Brendan teaching us how to perform proper tea stuff, which like is why I'm spamming the comments, because like people are commenting about tea in the comments, and like we're having this show right now, and he's actually like totally focused on answering questions about tea in the comments, which I think is beautiful. So like putting it up on screen so that like people can.
What do we do on our? Screen. I thought our last.
J&K just said, "Let the shaman lead you." I told you before we went on the air, and we were talking about tea ceremonies. I said we have to have an ayahuasca tea ceremony on the air. We drink the ayahuasca tea. First we prep it, then we drink it, and then we just keep talking until it kicks in, and we make it really entertaining.
I kind of feel,
I don't know where you're going. I'm down with that.
On the same tea episode, I think we talked about Brandon being a shaman and leading some sort of ceremony like that, ayahuasca, DMT, something. On the last episode Jimmy and I had To the Edge of Obscurity, we had a teaching moment. Jimmy, do you remember what that was? And have you been practicing? Because we're going to revisit it tonight.
I'm usually prepared for this on our show, but I haven't done my homework. So
we taught Jimmy how to French inhale.
Oh, right. I have been practicing, but I still can't do it. So this
okay. Well, tonight, well, I guess it'll be morning for you. But we'll revisit it.
Yeah, we're totally flipping the script. You guys are going to see Jimmy D with coffee and Sean with a knife cap. Like this could be brilliant, or it could go totally the wrong way. Like we don't fucking know. We really don't know where this is going to end up. Brendan, what's your most memorable moment? Other than with Sean Ballent and Jimmy D, because I think on that same stream, I think we diverged into like transvestite Olympic wear. So that's kind of a hard stream to beat. But and I love the fact that the Cryptowriter guys own everything that they do, because they branded that. It might have been a different episode, actually. It might have been, but they branded that. They put it up on the brand on the website. Yoshi Coins, transvestite,
trannies. I think it was really trannies.
So Brandon, I honestly you're one of my favorite people in the space, and I think that you resonate what Adam was talking about earlier. You are the ultimate host. Like you're like the best boyfriend ever. You just you just let the people rant along their ways, and you just sit in the background and read the messages and the tea leaves, and that's what you do. So
yeah, I don't know what my most memorable moment was apart from that tea session, but I feel like the tea session was very abbreviated. Like I didn't have a chance to really get everybody there. So maybe next time. But and it'd be better if we were all sitting together actually having tea, because it's kind of hard to pour tea through a computer screen. And if you do try, you might really mess up your computer. So I wouldn't recommend it.
There's a lot of talking in the live chat. They said do podcasts about drugs. They said DMT comes right after the red pill. They want to see Jimmy and Sean doing MDMA on a podcast. Right. Where's this thing going here?
Well, I mean, if we did that now,
it's interactive.
If we did that now, I'd be arrested. But I'm gonna move stateside at some point, and maybe those are all possibilities.
Where we have better drug laws than maybe than Japan, but.
Dude, Japan. We talked about this on Obscurity, and I wish I knew.
What's it like there? How strict is everything? I know it's obviously pretty regulated, but
yeah. So I don't think there's any substance to it, but basically the Japanese government came out with a warning that said, oh yeah, we know that Canada made like marijuana legal, but if you're a Japanese citizen, you do it there, we will arrest you. Which is ridiculous, right? Like even if you don't believe in drugs, like even if you're from South Carolina and you're like the only state that is in America that has decided to take the hardline Japan rule, credit to the nasty hooks there because they're awesome. But like even if you're that state, then you should still understand the fact that like you can't police people if they're outside your national borders, right? Like. I mean, America doesn't understand that maybe, but like Japan fucking
right,
should.
I was going to say. I was like, tell that to the drone strike victims. Like, you can't police me. Ah!
I try to get Jimmy in trouble on every episode. You might want to get the McAfee whacked tattoo, just in case,
Because that will help.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take much.
But you can't have tattoos in Japan or something, right?
Oh, right. You can't get into the bathhouses with these things.
Yeah,
is that true?
No.
It's kind of true. If you get a really big Band-Aid, it's okay. But like, you don't get me really in trouble. But here's the thing, right? Like, I kind of get myself into trouble. And I was talking to it's funny because I was talking to our marketer, like our amazing, wonderful, brilliant, like former, like Nike, Converse, top marketer type of person that we work with, and I was just spitballing, and I said to her, I said, Corey and I had this weird idea, like, what if we just did like On the Road with Jimmy D, where I just travel around like North America, and I just sit down with like people and like interview them online in the same room, and she's like, can we just fucking put you in a van for 6 months? Because that would be awesome. Like, this is the thing. Like, Zach kind of hit on it. Like, Adam kind of hit on it earlier. Like we do this podcast, right? Where we sit down and we talk to people online. Like, to me, the fact that Zach and Rob were in the same room together and they just spun up a podcast, like, that's not normal. That's weird, but it's lovely, right? Like it's amazing. The fact that like the best memory of all time is the fact that like, one of them had to go and answer the door, and Rob was like either really pleasant, or Zach was like, fuck this, we're in the podcast and I'm OCD and I can't fucking deal with answering the door in the middle of a live podcast. I don't know what the answer to that question is, but like that's the thing, right? Like we come into this crypto space with this idea that like we need to be in separate locations in separate places. Like what if crypto podcasts become, On the Road with Jack Kerouac? I mean, can you complain about that? No. Would that be great? Yes. Like, could you imagine me sitting? I don't know, but
that's the hard part
because of its profitability. I don't know, right? Like I really don't know. I'm gonna be quiet now and do what I was doing because I was totally distracted and I totally retracted this conversation. I'm trying to find Fin City, but we'll get there eventually.
Are there any? I don't know of any off the top of my head. Are there any good crypto podcasts with two co-hosts or more that do it on location together, or like I can't think of any personally. Like how Rob and I used to do it before he like moved to a different city than me.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like there was the EOS Radio guys; they were brothers, and they were in the same city, but they were in different locations, right? I think there's Crypto Daily. They're brothers as well from Canada, I think, and they do it, but they're in different locations whenever they do it live. So it's funny to me that family is doing it from two different locations. Although I understand, because if you have two mics and two headsets plugged in and you're standing in the same room, that could be kind of weird, right? I mean, like, did you do it in the same room when you were doing it?
Yeah, when
Rob?
we first started, we all worked in the same office. We had like 13 dudes on our team, and we had like this little like room set up where we play video games and stuff. And in the corner, we had like our podcast setup, which was basically just like a desk and all the microphones and stuff. But yeah, like at first it was just audio, so it didn't really matter. But once we moved to video, it was in the same room, and at first we only had one camera. So like to edit it, to make it like look good for video, when we started doing video, we like had like a panned out like single camera shot. And then I would create like a multicam view where I would take like a cropped view of just me, a cropped view of just him. And then I'd create like a shot of like the pan version of both of us. And then I would just edit between those. But it's like, there's a ton of editing work, man. It like just added so much overhead that once he like moved out of Pittsburgh and we were doing them remotely, it actually was much easier because it's actually a much better visual presentation for the audience whenever you're.
What about chemistry wise though?
Chemistry wise, in person's the absolute best. What you don't see on like the Pomp podcast, like Pomp has like the gold standard. We keep talking about Rogan, but if we're talking crypto, Pomp is like the gold standard of a crypto podcaster. If you guys, I guess he does video podcasts now, but like when you got his start, like it was all audio, but he would do them in person because I'm pretty sure he's in New York City and like that you get all the traffic there. You got people constantly coming in. So that's like the advantage of being in a big hub city like New York is you have that opportunity to do the in-person interviews. Whereas like I'm in Pittsburgh, no one has a reason to be here. So I can never have an in-person guest. But some of my, so Joe Rogan does this and Pomp does this, but they like hang out for like hours or maybe even like the entire day before if they came into town and they like go out to dinner together and they like get to know each other a little bit and they like kind of vibe and like bounce around ideas for like the show the next day or in a couple of hours. And I think it builds like a chemistry before you start recording and it probably makes for a much better product. So that's what you get from the in-person stuff is you get that chemistry, you get that chance to hang out before you actually record.
I'm looking at, I've listened to Pomp's show before. I didn't realize he's doing the in-person stuff too. This is really well done. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the benefit of, as you mentioned, you're in Pittsburgh. Okay. I went to Westminster College, which is like an hour north of you.
Yeah,
right. That kind of gives me a reason to go to Pittsburgh. I mean, I've always hated the Penguins because they just don't belong there.
Anyone's in Pittsburgh, hit me up.
Like, how cool would that be, though? Right? Like, so a mate of mine, he did this. He lives in Vancouver, and he left, and he does this thing where he goes into apartment buildings, and he shoots 360 videos. Right? Like we always talk about a Roundtable. How cool would it be if there was a video sitting in the middle of a park where we're all sitting around outside? You know, Brandon's serving his tea, and I'm, you know, putting other things into it just to be sane. And we're right, and like we have this central video camera that is spinning around, right? Like that would be really cool. I'm kind of delimiting into my own self.
I just had to do the Cleveland flex. We haven't been better than Pittsburgh pretty much my whole life, so. I don't know if you're paying attention to the Steelers at all, Zach.
If it's brown, flush it down.
Okay, all right. We love
it. like try being from Canada, seriously.
Try living in Canada, yes. It's interesting.
Do you know what the best football team in Ohio is? Neither of the professional teams. It's Ohio State. Sorry.
You know what? Actually, what drives me insane is when I meet someone who's a diehard Steelers fan and a diehard Buckeye. It's like, come on.
I went to college in Ohio, so I was surrounded by Buckeye fans. I get behind the Buckeyes because I didn't really have any team favorable to them, but
you got Penn State, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm just not a.
Where did you go to school, Zach?
Football, to be honest. What's this?
Oh, can we check out our office? Ooh. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. You haven't seen your office?
The shift, I haven't. Someone, who was it? Reese and someone else were trying to help me out on Telegram, and I dropped the ball. I didn't follow up with them.
Oh, we have a nightclub now too.
Oh,
nice.
The first nightclub in the Uplift.
Well, yeah. Well, let's do some gratitudes. I don't know who asked what is this, but you're banned from the stream forever. This is Fin City, which is the plot that the Cryptowriter guys have built out that basically, tracks Finney's arrival on Earth, I guess, right? And I do apologize because like I run all of this from a MacBook Pro. No, I run all of this from a MacBook Air. I should probably get a MacBook Pro. Yeah, it's really bad, right? So like the rendering is really slow. But these guys do a really good job. And
how many windows? Yeah. How many tabs do you have open right now, Jimmy?
I figured out a hack actually. I figured out if I only open like one tab per window, then that's like much better. Although like now I have like 1,000 windows open.
Yeah, you can just I can spot like a multi-tabber. Just I can look at someone and tell you how many tabs they have.
Yeah, and amplify that with the fact that like we are actually using an AirBook Pro. So I don't know. I think most of you kind of know what's going on. I think all of you know what's going on. But what we do is we put up gratitudes, and I thought it would be fitting, being all of us are crypto writers, podcasters or closely affiliated, that we should do some gratitudes. Where do you want to do them, Sean? Should we do the other far pillar? Or?
Sure, I don't care. No preference.
I'm not familiar with the format, so I will just sit back and listen.
Just figure out what you're grateful for, and Jimmy's gonna ask you.
That was the hardest question. I
filled
out something for the uplift. I felt Nat from Liquid Apps had me fill something out for you guys, and one of the questions was, "What are you most grateful for?" One of the most hard answers questions to answer. Everyone's answer. I was looking through the spreadsheet at everyone else's answers, and they're like, "I'm grateful to be alive." Of course.
I'd always, whenever I knew I was coming on Jimmy's show, I'd agonize over what I was grateful for. And then I think with a little practice, I started saying things like, "Oh, water, the elixir of life."
My favorite one was like, "I'm grateful for," what was it?
I don't know. The
Amazon Ford's
rock.
Ford's rocks. I'm grateful for Ford's rocks.
Ford's rocks. Ford's my son.
And those aren't the rocks that you're all thinking about. But anyway, Zach, honestly, like I know, like I don't know what you're doing in the uplift, but we would love to have Liquid Apps in here or your show if you ever get it going again. I think it would be really cool for our community. But who wants to go first? Let's put Brandon on the spot, because
yes.
Brandon.
O-N. Yeah. I'm grateful.
LJ.
Yeah. I'm grateful for all the people in the EOS community that have survived this far.
we need to do a Hail Mary too.
Wait, is Brandon typing that in? Are we? Do we?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm doing it with my mind.
I was say it happened like as you said it. It was just popping up. I'm like, wow.
TRVIVED.
That have. Where's the that have?
Limit. Did I spell survive?
Oh, no, there's a limit. I'm grateful for all the EOS community, all EOS community survivors. I don't know. I didn't know there was a limit.
Community survivors.
I want a whole section of wall. No, just kidding.
How many are there left, Brandon?
That's fair enough. I'm gonna skip the S and just pretend.
Yeah, that's fine. It looks. Yeah, no one's gonna ever read this anyway. No, just
right, like.
Hey, don't underestimate the power of Cryptowriter in the uplift.
All right.
We're gonna do. Okay.
I was gonna say Cryptowriter, but
if you're listening, when we start hiding Finny coins throughout the Shift City and the uplift metaverse, think of where you might want to check first. Since Brandon said no one's reading this.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, because it's gonna be behind the Brandon Lovejoy sign.
The launch of Finny.world.
Yeah, that was
out there. Sorry, Sean.
There was a great Easter egg in there too. I really thought that was cool.
The launch of Finny.world.
The launch.
This is a big step for us. We've had to be flexible. And Kenny and I, our vision was always to have Finny kind of drive our brand in Cryptowriter, and now we're finally like making the transformation. So really grateful for that.
Yeah, that website is awesome, and I really dug the little Easter egg that you guys hid there too. That was fun. More of that, please.
I don't know, what Easter egg did we hide?
There was a Finny coin that you could claim if you found the.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch, but someone
What?
So somebody needs to read the company memos a little bit more.
Someone figured out a little workaround to identify all the Finny coins and scooped up 5. But a hacker
that was Dave Chappelle's the one who did that.
A hacker by the name of Ron Stoner. And I love when this guy shows up in our chat because his name is Ron Stoner. Reached out to me and told me what someone did, and he's like, next time you do it, like, we can make it a real scavenger hunt. So next time we do it, it's not going to be that easy.
That's how we learn.
Yep.
So Adam or Zach, what do you got? What are you grateful for today? It can be anything.
Zach.
I've been thinking this whole time.
It's not. Yeah, just go with something right in front of your face.
Well, that's what I was looking for. I was hoping one of the cats would show up around me and I could pick it up and hold it in front of the camera. I'm thankful for my cats. They're freaking adorable.
And they're still alive.
And they're alive, all of them. And they're all fluffy and soft and loving.
How many cats are we talking about?
Yeah,
too many. I've got 4 freaking cats, man.
Wow.
We had 2. My wife wanted to get a 3rd one. I was like, this is the last freaking cat. You can't have more.
You can get a parasite from the cat and become a crazy cat woman from it.
Oh, we're pretty much crazy cat people.
Wait, is that
we don't have kids. We just have a bunch of fucking cats. They're all adorable. I love them.
Is this okay for you? Because I really wanted to adapt it. Like
Pussy.
I'm grateful for my cats that are still alive. I'm grateful for my fucking cats. No, we'll leave it at this. I like it. I'm grateful for my.
It's so basic. That's the worst answer.
I'm gonna
Fluffy.
Actually, Fluffy.
Great.
Cat.
Great, Zach. How many cats are jealous because I didn't say that?
Totes.
Are you okay with that? Because
Hold on. I just had an appearance of one.
Okay, let's bring it on.
I know, right? Like,
Dun 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 dun.
This is Reggie the cat.
Oh wow, that's a lot of cat. That's
right. Like that's it. I'd be grateful for that cat as well. Like
I would too.
Puts every other cat to shame.
Beautiful blue eyes like his daddy.
Yeah, that's a lucky looking
rag
cat.
Doll. Beautiful, purebred.
Ragdoll.
Ragdoll. Ragbag.
Nice. I like it.
All right.
He'll just be held uncomfortably for the rest of the show.
I wonder.
Someone else had a cat show up on screen before we went live, didn't they?
Imagine if we all went to like a real live crypto conference and just like coddled our pets and never let them go. Like how weird would that be?
What kind of pets do you guys have?
I have a daughter. She's 1.5.
I've got a dog. I got a puppy running around here somewhere.
And she climbs almost as good as your cat, Zach. Like,
there you go. Yeah, Sean's got a couple dogs. I've seen him before.
It's like,
there they are. Yeah, they're shaking the deck.
There we go. I'll say that it's not necessarily something I'll put down that I'm grateful for, but one thing that I have noticed I like a lot about Uplift World is just the underlying foundation of gratitude. I think that's what has carried it so far and probably will really continue to carry this project further as more people kind of warm up to what the heck a metaverse is. So I think that's cool. But for me, I'm going to say I'm grateful for the country of Liberland, which is a very small country in Eastern Europe, which some of us here might know Jillian Godsoul. She is my fellow Liberlander that she introduced me to Sean like 3 or 4 months ago. And I host the Liberland show. So if it wasn't for my journey as a Liberlander, I definitely wouldn't be here. And it's opened up a lot of doors for me in my life. We were talking about some other things earlier too, like who have you, like what were some crazy podcasting moments? I know everyone's probably, if you're in the crypto space, I feel like you have an opinion on this guy, but it's been pretty cool to honestly say like someone I would consider a friend based on the amount of times I get to talk to him now. Roger Veer, I got to do a couple interviews with him, And when I did the first one with him, I was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening right now. And it wouldn't be if it wasn't for Lieberland. So grateful for the country of Lieberland.
How do I spell Lieberland?
I haven't heard Lieberland mentioned in a while. So you guys are still kicking,
still going strong.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anyone since last January about that.
Is that right?
Yeah, Liberland. Yeah, we're what? Let's see. We've just had our 6th anniversary in April.
It's awesome.
And yeah, the community. I mean, thanks to thanks to, I guess you could say, the Corona stuff. That's what actually sped a lot of the growth up, because you just got people logging in from every corner of the world. Before, there was a little bit more of a geographical tie to everything that we were doing, but as we can all relate, things got much more virtual within the past year. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey. Let's see what Jimmy's grateful for. There we go.
I'm grateful for the Crypto Roundtable.
So what's the hype you guys are building up for tonight? Let me see if I can check it out. What's Sean and Jimmy are going live or something?
Have you watched an Edge of Obscurity?
I think I have.
There's a remove button for you down below.
So we've always done it Friday Eastern at like 10:30 a.m. and it's usually, I don't know what time it is for Jimmy, 11 at night.
It's usually like
10:30 for me.
It's usually like 1 a.m. in the morning for me, and you usually harass me. I'm like, dude, I'm like really tired.
Right.
Like, can we change the time? And you're like, every week you don't know if you want to fucking do it. And so this week we're gonna do it like when I can harass you. So I'm really happy about that.
Usually though, Jimmy is always sipping on something, and it's like 10 in the morning for me. So eventually I'm just like, okay, fuck it. I'm gonna start drinking now. And
what's the time difference, Jimmy, from East Coast time for you?
Yeah, so it's plus 13 hours actually.
But tonight because it'll be prime time for me, right? We're doing it at 9 p.m. my time. So I'm going to be in a much different state of mind, and I'm going to have to move it out to my shed to get a little separation, because the kids' room's right on the other side of that wall. And I wasn't sure my Wi-Fi was going to make it. My Wi-Fi makes it to the Cheeky Hut, but I'm not sure about the shed. So I had to get a mesh network, and I'm going to plug it in after this show to make sure I have good signal out in the shed. It's going to be hot, humid. There's going to be mosquitoes flying around. I'll plug in the zapper. But we're going to throw out some Finny coins tonight. We're going to do some wheel spins, and it'll be, Jimmy will be sipping his coffee, so he won't look as he'll be on, and I'll be on.
And honestly, if any of you guys want to drop in and say hello,
we'll have a few drop-ins. Also, in the Cryptowriter community on Telegram, the chat is most lively at that time of night. A lot of our Aussie friends are asleep right now. We have a big Aussie community, so they'll all be awake and finally get to tune in live. So it'll be fun.
The audience has said this multiple times now, Sean. They're like, dude, you can't have a guitar behind you and not like play a little riff.
Maybe tonight.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Nice teaser. There it is. You guys want to see Sean?
But I think that brings up a good question, right? Like, because here's the thing, right? Like, I live in Japan, and what we do on our show is Corey and I, we do 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. Which is crazy time, realistically speaking, right? Like
it's
this
the worst
is just
time. When is the worst time to do
how about that? So when's the best time? This is about like,
right? Yeah, that's my question. When's
what is the best time for you guys? Like, what's ideal? I like the end of late afternoon for me.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't mind, because like seriously, like I had someone come to me, I think last week, that I was like, oh man, I can't talk to you right now. I'm sorry. I really have to go to bed. It's like 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning. And like, I have to get up to go to work, because I do still have like, I don't have a full-time job, but I still do work part-time in the real world. And he's like, I don't see how that's possible. You're streaming like 6 to 8 hours per day, every day. Like, how do you do a full-time job? Right. So like, fair enough. I mean, but at the same time, like, I think you bring up a really good point. What's the best time, right? Like, you have kids, right? Like, I mean, I think we're gonna have to create like a shed Sean Finney that, like, has mosquito bites all over his face because he's been eaten alive, like, but what is the best time? Like,
I love that. Like, end of the week, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. I know, Zach, you've done some shows around that time, and that's all. It's if it's a fun show, if it's not too serious. I love and crypto is bullish. Those are always fun to tune into, and I think a lot of people are awake because West Coast is up. Everyone's awake except Jimmy. You're usually sleeping at that time, but also if you're out in Europe, it's 5 hours, 6 hours ahead, so you could still be up, as opposed to 9 a.m. where everyone on the West Coast is just like still asleep, and it's just weird to start your day that way. But Jimmy and the Uplift, they do that every day.
These middle of the day ones are tough because you I had a call right before hopping on here, so like no time to like prep. So like I couldn't be hosting if I like had calls leading up to a podcast. Then like I'm looking at the clock, I'm like, oh, crap, I got stuff coming up, and just like I don't like having that feeling of like, I don't know, it just adds extra stress. That's why the end of the day is nice. You have the whole day to prepare, and then you don't have a hard stop at the end, so you can just keep going.
Yeah, and it's got to be if you want. It's got to be helpful too with the Rona. After the Rona, everyone's working from home, whatever. It's not like they've got to be in the office. And Cheney's amazing because he's living the double life.
Is he still camping?
It was 12 that he's got to be coming. We got to be bringing him back soon. I know he was out in the wilderness for 12 days. That's got to be awesome for him to completely remove himself, because that guy has been like in it from like many of us for the last 3 years. I would love, and I know Brandon has done a cleanse of the lens, but I would love to just take a couple weeks to, turn it off. But it's hard.
I mean, I'm coming stateside, so maybe you and I just need to disappear for a week to Mexico and find some peyote.
Well, late March.
That's gonna get fucking weird. I'm just telling you, like right now.
Late March. If ever you come to Miami, end of March, end of March is the best time to come. There's so much going on. The weather's perfect. And you can have a blast. There's enough awesome things going on to distract you, like enough to step away from crypto.
I'm not joking. Like, I'm seriously considering moving there for a couple months, like in a year or two. I got.
Why not? You can work from anywhere now, right?
Right. Like, I wanted to come next year, but I got a wrench thrown in my plans that I can't really leave right now. So, I mean, when a 1-year-old is climbing on kitchen tables, and there's another one coming, so potentially that could be a problem.
Congrats.
Right? so yeah, but I want to do that. Like, fuck, I've got no reason whatsoever at all to go to Pittsburgh. Like, I'm never gonna go to Pittsburgh, right? But like Zach, seriously, like, I would love to sit in a park with you and have this conversation.
Well, that's why we have to get the in-person crypto events going again, because usually you just kind of show up in the same city together. No, I don't need people to come to my city. We just got to meet up in some other city.
Well, I mean, would all of you show up if I did, like, Jimmy D Does America? That sounded really a lot more dirtier out in the open than in my head.
Well, we know Zach would show up. I don't know about the rest of us.
If you can, like, dude, that'd be sick.
I actually did
plan out your cities. You actually like go on tour, Jimmy. You're like, I'm gonna be here.
When Jimmy Does America, he's doing a lot of America. He'll line them up in advance. Anyone's welcome. You bring your cat. You bring your cat if you want.
If you did it, Jimmy, would you go east to west or west to east, or just all over?
Yeah. So, like, there's a few places that I'm partial to. I used to live in Hawaii, for those who don't know.
Okay.
Right. I lived in Oahu, actually. I was a student there for a while. But yeah, like I have friends kind of all over North America. And, you know, I would definitely hit up New York because I have a good friend there, Boston. I love that city. And I would probably travel down the coast. So, you know, I would probably inadvertently like go inland a little bit and hit up, you know, some of those places. But I'd love to stop into South Carolina and hijack
you could test the laws compared to Japan.
No, like hijack a couple mates of mine and like get them out of the fucking state, right? and then like, you know, Florida would be great. Like, I don't know if Sean would ever come and meet me in Florida, but if he didn't, then I'd have leverage. And leverage when you do a show like Obscurity and Beyond is always good with Sean. I'd go to Texas because I'm Blues there. And most of my team, like most of my
Texas too.
Sorry,
Cheney.
Texas too.
Cheney's. Oh, there's a lot of people in Texas.
Yeah,
right?
you got to go to Texas, man.
I would totally.
Adriana's in
like,
she's not in Texas anymore.
No, I think she's in Miami.
Adriana's in Miami, and we have our.
Maybe Sean, you could do an in-person podcast in your shed.
Well, yeah.
Adriana.
Well,
with Adriana, she would beat him to a pulp.
I'd like to have Brandon come join it.
I'd watch it.
I'd love to have Brandon come and make a guy come down here and have them both live in person. We'll sort some things out.
Nobody knows, like nobody really knows where Brandon is because he kind of lives in the ether. Like nobody really knows. Like he's pro EOS, but like his actual livelihood is in the ether. Like,
wouldn't want to know where he. I feel like Brandon's advantage is that he's that shaman. Everyone's calling him a shaman. Like he should keep that.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to like I'm happy to like run this stream into Obscurity and Beyond. But but we've been live for an hour and 30 minutes, and I think that probably we have to wrap it up. But honestly, like this to me was like the perfect podcast. Like maybe the people who watch it back later, they won't know.
Once we got rid of NFT Joe and his shaky signal.
That's kind of sketchy. Buy that man a new microphone and internet connection.
Yeah, what?
I said this to Corey and I said this to Sean as well. Like I want this to become a roundtable thing, right? Like I want us to at least bi-monthly get on the line with the Cryptowriter family and have everyone come on. And I mean, Adam Carswell picked the time today, so we'll let someone else do it next time. But like, I'm really appreciative of the fact that you decided to join us, Zach. It was really awesome. I know, like, you know, and if you want, just contact Kenny, and you can edit the fuck out of this. I'm sure he'll let you.
The last half hour of any Jimmy D podcast is like the sentimental half hour where he's just tells you how much he loves you. He boosts you up so that we come back.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like we had this conversation with Zach today in the Telegram channel. And I was like kind of enamored when he spoke earlier. He's like, yeah, your community really loves you. And it's like, I'm really enamored by that. Those 5 people that love me. Thank you for showing up every week. You guys are awesome. But yeah, like if any of you have any last words, please, you know, say it now or forever hold your peace until next month where you'll all be welcome back again.
I'll go.
But I'm kind of thinking like next time we do this, I'm going to send the invite 30 minutes later than that show actually starts. And I'm going to jump on the line with only Brandon so that he has a chance to say something. That's my plan.
Okay. Well, I'll go. Zach, my last word is to Zach. I think that you should find a way to continue to share your crypto knowledge with the world via some sort of podcast, whatever that is. Maybe it's not everything EOS. Maybe you create some new little thing, but you got to do it.
There's something in the works. Do not worry.
Okay.
Mm.
This is what his podcast was all about dropping dropping some juicy little crumbs for the audience.
Head to roundtable.io and you will see the next home.
Love it.
It's a Brock initiative with some pretty big media players. It'll be cool.
Nice.
Think
So
like Barstool Sports for crypto.
So basically, I have no job anymore. Okay, thanks for that. But I love it. I think that's awesome. Like I will totally tune into Roundtable.io if it's a Brock initiative. I mean,
I'm still waiting for more details myself, but it sounds awesome. I got invited to be the EOS analyst expert guy. Hopefully I could expand beyond that niche, but they just put their initial announcement press release out about a week and a half ago.
Cool. I've been waiting to see like a really highly produced.
That's what it sounds like it's going to be. Like they're going to do all the editing and production for the content creators, let them just focus on their content.
That's like your dream job.
It's a huge opportunity. Thank you to Luke Stokes for reaching out, and thank you for whoever recommended me to him.
Luke Stokes is awesome. He's one of my favorite people in the space. He's like one of the most real people in the space that I've ever met. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I can honestly say that if he's the one that put you into that, that's going to be one of the best podcasts ever.
It sounds like they're going to have a bunch of beasts, man. I'm probably going to be like the everyone else seems like way more famous. I'm not famous at all.
Until you get
people know who I am.
You'll be on their level once you're on there.
Right? Yeah. Don't forget about us. Like, don't forget about us plebs over here.
The strategy is like they do shows like this, but they organize the topics and they group together the experts to get like every like topic has its own experts and analysts and stuff, and they just kind of create the content around that.
I like it.
Like
so
really thoughtful conversations.
Yeah, I like it a lot. That's going to be great. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. We're going to be the home team now. But
this is more than Matt. I'm a Genesis member of Eden, buddy. I was one of the first people. I was invited by Dan, buddy. I'm already in Eden.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, do you want to come back and do a podcast next week? Because next week's Crypto Roundtable is an Eden Roundtable. So if you want to come, you're more than welcome. Brendan as well, because I know you're in there. We've got a couple other people that are coming. I always get his name wrong.
Tag me in the little podcast group we're in. Remind me, and I'll let you know if I'm free.
Same bat time, same bat
my
channel.
only value add would be
enough.
If it's the Garden of Eden, I can be Adam. That's probably the best to do it.
Nice.
I'm just gonna end it now. Sorry.
All right.